Here he comes. Hello. Why are you laughing?
That just took me by surprise. It was like instantaneous.
Yeah, I know. It's really efficient.
That's very cool, actually. Just that so I can get you into there. I can look at you there. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am very good, actually. I was just actually thinking this morning. You know, it's been a good little bit of time since I arrived in Portugal on a bit of a purple patch. So, I'm enjoying myself.
You're enjoying yourself, are you?
Yeah, I am indeed. I really like it here. I think I've made what was a tacit understanding into an explicit understanding that I want to kind of stay here on a much longer basis now.
Yeah. What was it? 3 months, 6 months, 1 year thing originally, was it?
It was originally like, let's just check it out and see what it's like, and I'll be here for a year and see what it's like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of morphed now into a familiarity that's good, and so I finally feel like I'm kind of home now. It's become home.
Well, is it convenient? I mean, is Lisbon a big airport? Because we just plunged straight into this conversation here, so let's just set the scene for a minute. Welcome, everybody.
Yes.
This is Neil Asher, who is a long-time friend of mine and sometime business partner and compadre, partner in crime and shenanigans whenever there's fun to be had. And we're here today to talk a bit about what Neil's been doing since we hooked up in Brisbane, because he's having some amazing results. And but first of all, we're just having a bit of a chit chat because I'm in Greece and he's in Lisbon in Portugal. And so is the airport a good one there? Is it a good hub for you, Europe-wise?
It's a great hub. So it gives us, I mean, one of the things that we have, what we moved here for was for travel. That was one of the big things. Because Australia, whilst beautiful, is incredibly isolated.
Yeah.
And you do feel that you live in the arse end of nowhere. And so because of that, you know, we love to travel, and that was always one of the great impetuses for starting an online business and having an online lifestyle, was to travel and explore. So we now travel a lot. At least every month we go away.
Okay.
At least every month. So this coming month, this month now is October, we just turned into October. And we have 2 trips this month, for instance. Last month we had 2 trips. The month before, 1 trip, but a big trip. So travel is important, and Lisbon was a good pick because of that. So the airport here is fantastic, and you've got such close proximity to the rest of Europe that it's made traveling not only through air, but also, you know, for driving as well. That's one of the things I like to do, is go and drive to places and then meet the girls there.
Oh, okay.
Gives me a bit of a chance to kind of explore and explore my road as well. Yeah, so I like cars, bit of a petrol head, so I like to kind of drive to these different places. So it's meant that it's been incredibly easy as a result of that to indulge that love of traveling, that love of exploring different places, different cultures.
I saw pictures of the girls pop back to your home in Brighton just recently.
Yeah, they did. So we've got a place in Brighton that I got for Natasha when we first kind of arrived back in the UK. I got that for Natasha, and it was just prior to, like, when she was basically, I knocked her up and then brought her this house. Have this house, darling, with the intention that, you know, it would be a fantastic kind of place for us to live and to raise kids. And it's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
But it needed a renovation and yada, yada, yada. And I'm shit at that sort of thing, like utterly pants at anything to do with hammers and nails. DIY in general, like anything. So it fell upon Natasha to do all of that. So she was pregnant and did a complete architectural redesign of this house while she was pregnant.
Wow.
And then she literally had our first daughter in the house, Isabella, and then I promptly moved everybody off to Australia. I was like, okay, we're done here.
Because Natasha's Australian, of course, and you met in Australia, so there is a big pull to Australia because her family's there, and you've got property out there as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we have property out there as well, and and her family's there. And her family is, her parents are getting a little older now, on the wrong side of 70, and so she's kind of mindful of that change in her relationship with them relative to her role within their life. So that's something that I've been very, very mindful of with the two of her. We kind of think that her mother is on the early phases of having Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. And so that's kind of been a bit of it's certainly given us pause for thought about living so far away from Australia. What that wasn't really the impetus to go back to Australia. It was really based around me following business opportunities, basically.
Yeah, because you're very big at bringing things into Australia that have worked everywhere else, haven't you?
That's right, and that was one of the reasons that we went to Oz, because I saw a business that had worked really, really well in the UK. I thought, freaking, this would be awesome in Australia. And I literally couldn't stop myself after that. The compulsion took over, the craziness took over, and I had to go and at least see if it would work.
Neil is obviously a raging entrepreneur. And we met after you actually started a business in Australia that went really, really well, just after you'd met. And then you brought it into the UK, didn't you? But it was you set up a coaching and personal development company that was phenomenally successful in Australia. You brought it to the UK, but you did it very differently to everyone else. You did it by mail order when we were all doing coaching marketing online by then.
Yeah, well, that's a kind of weird story, because the business that we had in Australia did do very, very well, and it was based upon the traditional kind of UK model where we would do information evenings, and so I'd fly around Australia, bloody big country, go and rock up and do these 3-hour information evenings, and then we pull everybody into a seminar,
like one day,
and so we sold it like that, and it did. I mean, it was fabulously successful.
Kerwin Ray still selling like that in Australia very successfully, isn't he? Although he is now combining the whole social media element as well very successfully.
Absolutely, we did Kerwin's marketing for him through Real Local for a long time. He's a very, very cool guy. So he's still following that. A number of people are still following that. But when I got to the UK, I was so burnt out from doing all the travelling around, because in Australia it's such a huge country. To go to the 4, maybe 5 states that matter as far as the seminars are concerned in Australia, it's a hell of it's like a day getting there, a day getting back. So when I got to in the UK, I thought, well, this is rubbish. I don't want to do that.
So much work.
Let's go do something else. And I'd actually just been to a Dan Kennedy seminar, which is all about direct mail.
Oh, yes.
And I thought, blow it. I'm going to do the entire thing through direct mail. And so I thought I'd put it to a test and see what happened. And it worked. It was very, very successful. Like, in spite of myself, it worked. The first direct mail letter that we sent out was so bad. I printed it myself. I'd stapled it in the top corner. There was like 12 sheets of paper.
Good God.
And it was really crap paper as well. Didn't have a cover on it. Like stapled in the top right-hand corner, left-hand corner. And it just looked shit. I mean, it just looked utter rubbish. But, when there's nothing else in the marketplace, and when you're sending it to the right people, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
A good offer to the right market, absolutely.
A good offer you can have a terrible offer to the right market, and it will still work very, very well.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I remember that I had an office in my house in Shoreham Beach, and which is only 7 or 8, perhaps 10 miles away from where your house was. We didn't know each other then, but I had subscribed to your marketing, and I had a big box, and every time you mailed anything, I put it in this box, and I thought, I'm just going to copy everything this guy does. But I never got around to it. And then you were asked by someone in Australia to come and meet me, and we got on really, really well on a rainy Monday in Shoreham where there was nothing else open, so I had to take you to a Greasy Spoon. And I remember that morning so well, and we've just been friends ever since. It's been quite amazing, really. But
it really has. And in each other, we found kindred entrepreneurial nutters, I think. So there was an instant connection.
Yeah, but you know, not to let anyone who's watching this now, let's not make you think that Neil doesn't know what he's doing online, because you were very, very successful both with marketing physical products on Amazon and already in those days. And also you were one of the top 100 ClickBank affiliates, so you really knew what you were doing in online marketing as well, didn't you?
Yeah, well, my entire, I mean, I was always surprised when I got that ClickBank award. I was always quite surprised because for me it wasn't very difficult. I don't mean that in a, oh wow, well, how cool am I kind of way. I mean, literally, it wasn't difficult. I mean, all I was doing back then was I saw Google AdWords as the number one place where people were going and going online to search, and I was in the UK, and so.
Well, they came in about
2000, and nobody was running traffic.
2003, 2002, 2003, because I remember going to the first ever internet marketing seminar in Gatwick, and one of the copywriters at Highlight DMS, which is a big direct marketing company, Nick stood up and talked about Google AdWords, and my jaw just hit the floor. Because I had a boutique hotel in Worthing at the time, and this well before we met, 3 years before I met you, and we used it to market the hotel, and no other guest house in Worthing was using Google AdWords. You know, I was, you know, at Goodwood races, Brighton Gay Pride, anything to do with the local area, my hotel ad appeared. It was like going to Goodwood races, stay in style at the Acacia. And then they get to the hotel website, and there was a blog, and there was a weekly V-zine, e-zine in those days. But you were doing it. I was marketing real world businesses with Google AdWords, and you were marketing affiliate products.
I was marketing affiliate products, yeah. Like I was selling ringtones and selling all sorts of crazy stuff. Like I was selling Amazon products. Like back then, Amazon had a really good. I mean, they've still got an affiliate program now, but it's pretty rubbish now. Back then it was great. They would pay between 10 and 20% affiliate commission on their products.
Wow.
So a flat screen TV in the UK back then was like £1,000, and they'd give you 200 quid for making a sale. And all I did was just took the exact link through my affiliate link, put my Google AdWords up, and I was running ads on really obvious traffic terms. Yeah. And it just went nuts. I mean, it just went.
Until 2006, when the Google slap was when they stopped you putting affiliate links directly into ads, wasn't it? Which wiped everyone's businesses out in one fell swoop.
Everyone's business just went kaput, and we're all unemployed after that.
Yeah, you weren't. So tell us, because we're just having a wonderful time reminiscing here about everything, which I'm sure is interesting, but not that interesting to anyone else. So tell us about Aussie online entrepreneurs, and you know how you came to invite me to come and speak in Brisbane, and then what happened.
So I had started selling things on Amazon. Nicola will tell you that I love physical products. One of the things that I've often thought is that you should go where other people don't go and do the things that other people won't do. And physical products was one of those things. It became very untrendy, physical products. And so
information products, digital products, that was all the rage.
digital, everything's downloadable. But there's all these people who weren't interested in that at all, still buying their tea cozies and their mugs and things like that. So I started selling on Amazon and just applied all the stuff that we get taught from the people that we've been and studied with, and that's gone really, really well. And then I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. Go on, I was going to ask a question, because Amazon's only just opening up in Australia. So you've been running Aussie online entrepreneurs for a while. Were you teaching Australians how to sell on Amazon in .com? Is that what was going on before this?
Yeah, I mean, basically that's it. I mean, my entire philosophy around marketing is that you should follow the people rather than the platforms. So if you find a subset of people who've got an unmet need, it doesn't really matter where they are.
Right.
You can put an advert in front of them. So I sell in France and Germany and in the UK and America and also in India now as well. So the market is as big as you want it to be. So it was never really about, for me, selling on Amazon.com. It was always about, let's go find a group of people who've got an unmet need, and then we'll put an offer in front of them that meets that need. It was always about that for me. And Amazon was a very, very good platform for selling physical products through. And because of the reach and the scope that they had, it was an obvious place to go to sell physical products to kind of niche marketplaces.
Yeah. And so, can I also interject here, because I'm trying to play the part of the village idiot for the people who are watching who don't know how all this works. I remember the days when I first met you, you had lots of stock in your garage. And in fact, you hired my daughter for 2 weeks when you went on holiday to post out your stuff for you. But it changed with the whole Amazon suddenly started holding your stock for you. And that, explain a bit about that and how that works, because most people won't realise that. They'll still be thinking in terms of, oh, I have to have all the stuff in the garage and go down the post office.
I remember your daughter, by the way. What a fantastic young lady she is. Credit to you. She worked her butt off. She is a grafter, that she is.
Yeah, she is. She loves doing those videos.
You know, it's interesting. Whenever I look to hire somebody now, I always look for kids of entrepreneurs.
Oh,
that's what I look for now. And people who have restaurants or people who have businesses, because the children are absorbed in that, and they understand the chaos of entrepreneurship because their parents have been through it, but they also are okay with hard work as well. Anyway, so your daughter, she's fun. So as Nicola said, I used to have all my products, like bloody, Natasha used to go off her nut at me. I'd have all these boxes torn up, everything like that, and we couldn't get the car in the garage, and she'd be spitting the dung at me. Anyway, so, and then all of a sudden, Amazon changed all that by allowing us to put our products into their warehouses, and then they would basically take care of all that stuff for us. And so it meant that you could free up all the garage space and the spare room space, let Amazon take care of all of that, and they would take care of the mailing it to the customers, and also take care of the returns as well. So a huge proportion of the customer service side of things was taken care of by somebody who was far better at it than we were, for instance. So it really meant that the Amazon businesses could get scale a lot faster. You could scale them much bigger because of that. And
that's Amazon FBA, is it?
It is, yeah. So that's FBA is fulfilled by Amazon.
Okay, cool. All right, and you obviously jumped on that as soon as it came along because you were thinking, blimey, this is going to make my life so much better. And
blimey, ka-ching, I thought. I was like, holy crap, this is going to be brilliant. I'm really happy with that. Because
you're really good at learning things really intensely and really fast, aren't you?
I'm really good at copying things, absolutely. Yeah. So if I see something working really, really well, I am very, very okay with just copying it and modeling it and putting it into work in my own business. So as a direct result of that, a lot of things that I do don't work. Like they just crash and burn miserably. But the few things that do work, they really, really work. And so they make up for all the failures, the successes make up. And then some for the failures.
And that's a huge different attitude for people who are listening, because, you know, so many people are so scared of failing, they don't try. And they're scared of getting it wrong, that they don't do anything. And your secret of success is really taking action and trying things out and puzzling it out as you go along. So how did you get started with Aussie Online Entrepreneurs then? I mean, I remember I came to Australia for the year before, and you were sort of just getting going with it, weren't you? And I came to a conference in Manly, and we hooked up for lunch and then dinner, and then
we got drunk over lunch and then went swimming. I remember it well.
In huge waves, and really that was a bit daft, but there you go. It's great fun. So what gave you the idea for Aussie Online Entrepreneurs, and how did you get it going?
I had found that a number of people who were part of Raw Local were coming to me asking me about Amazon and about how they would start selling on it. Yeah. And I thought, well, if my Raw Local clients are interested, then it makes sense that other people will be interested as well. Mm-hmm. And so again, I just kind of put it out there and put it to the test. And I looked at various different business models that were out there in the marketplace already. And they would tended to be things like go along, pay a lot of money to go along to a seminar, or pay a lot of money to go and do a training program or something like that.
Thousands of dollars,
Thousands of dollars. And I thought, well, there is, again, looking at different market segments, there is nothing in the let's start people off with some really good information that they can utilize, and as they're applying that information, let's give them more advanced information that they pay for, but they can then take on board and use to grow their business even faster. So I followed a different business model to what everybody else was doing, and then it's taken off really, really well.
Right, okay. And I know that you'd had a lot of success with people who were looking for business franchises in the past in Australia. So did you find that a proportion of that market was happy to move over into the Amazon thing as well? Because it seems to me that if people are looking for a franchise, I mean, it's almost buying a franchise is quite similar to following a structured system and then using a structured platform like Amazon, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm going to answer the question by telling you a little ditty, a little story.
Okay.
When I had, when I was in the UK, I had a particular business goal that I was insistent upon hitting, and it took me a while to hit it, but it was a revenue-based goal, and it was for New Insights at the time. So that company, all about sending people things in the post. Yeah. And when I hit that, it was the first time I'd made 100,000 quid in a month through that business.
Wow.
I thought, I'm going to get myself a new watch. And so I didn't have a watch in mind. I had an amount of money I was going to spend on myself on a new watch. And I walked into Watches of Switzerland, and I remember really, really clearly, Natasha was with me. And I said, look, to a lady, I want to buy a watch. And she said, which watch would you like? And I said, I don't mind. It has to cost 25,000 quid though. So the watch was of no consequence whatsoever. It was the fact that I wanted to buy myself something. It was the value of the watch that was more important, okay?
Yeah.
And so when you're buying franchises, it's exactly the same. So there are people who will only entertain buying a franchise that costs $1 million, for instance. There are other people that will only entertain buying a franchise that costs $100,000, and others that want a franchise that costs $10,000. And they're very, very different people. Even though they're all looking for a franchise, they're very different people, and you go after them differently online. Mm. So whilst it's true to say that an Amazon business is highly systemized and replicates a franchise in many, many respects, the people who would be interested, I mean, we were selling legal franchises then at $250,000. None of those people were in any way, shape or form interested in my itty-bitty little Amazon franchise.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
No, not in the slightest. Couldn't, what? $47 a month? No,
well, yeah, I mean, and that's another question, because, a lot of people would think that the kind of people you'd attract to a program that that's so inexpensive. And I have to say, I've seen the inside of your membership site, because you've got one of your students has done a video that shows people round. Yeah, there we go. One of your students has showed people round the inside of it, and I'm astonished at. Well, I'm not really, because I know you. One would be astonished at the amount of detailed step-by-step content that's in there for that amount of money. It's incredibly inexpensive. So do you find that, some people would think that it would attract the wrong kind of person at that kind of price level. But again, I've seen the quality of the people, because I came to speak for you in Brisbane. They're amazing people, aren't they?
Yeah, we get fantastic people. We really, really do. And I think that's a part and parcel of the community that we've created. It tends to be people who have tried a lot of other things, realize that they need certain aspects of what we're offering. It tends to be the kind of support and mentoring and backup. Because listing a business on Amazon is not really that difficult. I mean, there are things that you need to know that can really fast track that for you. But for most small businesses like that, it tends to be having somebody there who will just say, yeah, you're doing the right thing, carry on doing that.
Yeah.
And it tends to be just that. And so we do an inordinate amount of that. and the people that we've attracted, because we started that initially, that's snowballed, and literally everybody does that now, like everybody in the group. So it's become very, very collaborative, which means for me, I don't need to charge a lot of money because we've got all these fantastic people in the group who are doing a lot of the coaching and mentoring as part and parcel of that. So.
Yeah, cool. Now, the one thing we need to, before we go on to the main part of this story, the one thing we need to talk about is the fact that back in, you've always been a bit of a mentor to me, and in fact, when I was going through a really bad patch, you sort of scooped me up and offered me a relationship with the raw local UK side of things, and you had to do quite a bit of bashing to get me to outsource things, because I was going through that thing, you know, everyone goes through where they don't want to outsource, they don't think anyone will do it as good as them, or it will take too long to explain it, or all those reasons why I didn't do it. And you taught me lots of things around that I've been forever grateful for. And we got Raw Local UK off the ground by following a system that I can't remember. I think we made it up together, or you told me what needs to happen and I made it happen with the outsourcers or whatever. And that grew into what I now call the Be Everywhere Online system. And then it was only really, we sort of not lost touch a bit, but we didn't talk so often. And then you invited me to come to Brisbane last year in 2016. No, it was 2000. No, it's this year, wasn't it? 2017.
2017. June.
It was only 3 months ago.
A long year. I'm with you.
and then, so I did this whole presentation on something that had really I'd used to set up my new business since Christmas. From Greece, from an isolated village in Greece, and it had worked really, really well. So when I came over there, and I was thinking, what can I speak to the Aussie online entrepreneurs about that might be something new to them, or that would be complementary to what you're teaching them? So I just outlined this whole Be Everywhere Online system that I've been pioneering, and so you're in the audience, and what happened?
Light bulb went off for me. A veritable, very, very bright, incandescent, luminous light bulb went off in my head. And I sat there, and had there been a hammer, I would have smacked myself with it. Because everything you were saying made utter sense. And I had a framework of past experiences to wrap what you were saying around, and to kind of mentally apply it to what I was doing. And I just saw ludicrous potential, absolutely ludicrous potential. It's like when you, all of a sudden, all your different synapses just start making connections, and you go, oh yeah, there's all these things about YouTube. Oh yeah, there's all these things about LinkedIn. There's all these things about Google. And it just went, and all these things just fell into place for me.
So you sort of knew it all. And actually, you taught me some of it. I mean, you can't really do the Be Everywhere Online.
Well, I told you to be lazy. That's really my entire strategy. Nicola, be lazy. Get other people doing the work. That was really the entire strategy of that. It was in no way, shape, or form what you are now doing, which has taken that concept of be lazy, and it's a totally different thing now. So no, you've pioneered something that I believe is at the cutting edge of content marketing of anything that I've seen. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. And like you said, you sat in the audience and you suddenly realised you had all the pieces, because the thing that it works best for is people who are prolific content creators. And you sat and realised how much content you were generating naturally as a byproduct of your business.
Yes, as a byproduct of my crazy personality, I tend to create a lot of content.
Well, you're doing Q&A calls, you're interviewing members and things, but what you weren't doing was sharing that outside your membership.
That's right. So I as Nicola said, I had this crazy amount of content that I was doing because I just love talking to entrepreneurs and sharing this information. It's just really, really fun. So I had a lot of information that was sitting there, and I had not placed any value on it at all. I just saw it really it was kind of in a folder on my computer. I hadn't really thought about it in any way other than it was taking up space on my computer. And then once Nicola started speaking about the way that could be leveraged across different platforms, it really, everything shifted in terms of my understanding about what I could be doing with it. And for me, it was one of those horrible moments, and it had a bittersweetness about it. It was sweet because I went, holy shit, look at everything I could be doing. And it was sour because I go, holy shit, look at everything I should have been doing. Look at how much money I could have made if I would have been doing that from the beginning. And I really, really got that at a very, very deep level. The amount of money I had left on the table as a result of not doing that,
well,
that was galling.
Well, regret is a pointless emotion, as they say. But the thing that struck me was, you were sending out these amazing emails every day. Your emails are just awesome. So everyone go and get on Neil's mailing list just to get these amazing emails. I mean, he is a brilliant copywriter, and you studied it for years, haven't you? But they're entertaining, they're very informal, they're fun. They all have one goal, which is to get people to sign up for the Aussie Entrepreneurs. So they're a master in focus. And I thought they were so good that they shouldn't just be sitting in an email sequence. They should be out there on YouTube. They should be podcasts. They should be, blog posts. They should be all of that stuff. But your two best mediums, most natural mediums, most effortless mediums are talking and writing, aren't they?
That's right, yeah. So for whatever reason, it's talking and writing. I love to write, and I get a lot of pleasure out of crafting emails and putting emails together. And as you say, I've done a lot of different courses and studied with a lot of masters, and so I've become adept at doing that, and then also talking as well.
Talk frequently.
Happy to.
So what did you do then? So you watched the presentation, and then you went off and did what?
I went off and planned it all out. So I went off and sat down and looked at the content I had, and looked at what was actually in that content. So this video, for instance, what's actually the components of that? Well, there's you and I talking, so there's the auditory component. There's a video component of it. There's a written component that could be had from it, from transcribing the audio component of it. It could be chunked down into short, informal lessons or sound bites and things like that. So there's a whole lot of different things hidden within plain sight within the content that I had. And it was you that unlocked the key to that. Wow. And so then I looked at everything that I got. I mapped the whole thing out. I think I spoke to you a couple of times about the strategy and just checked that I was kind of following the right strategy. And then I put it into work. I started running advertisements on Upwork to find people to do the work, and got them to do the work for me. So now it's very, very seamless strategy that's in place.
So do you have like a general VA and then lots of people who do just bits, or how have you worked it out?
Yeah, that's exactly what I have. So right down to, for instance, I was getting the gentleman who's based in Spain who edits my videos for me. I was also getting him to create a little YouTube thumbnail, just very, very simple one. Logo in the top, right-hand side, thing that was being discussed. And so I was having him do that, but then I realized that was dumb because that's not really his skill set. And so I've just now separated out that job as well. And so, as much as possible, I have different people and play to their skill sets to do the work that needs to be done.
Well, that's what you taught me about outsourcing, because I think, I was making the same mistake that lots of people were making, was trying to find one person who can do lots of things. And I think everyone, just does that. All my clients try and do that. Whereas actually what you want is a really efficient VA who is the general manager of the tasks, and then you have a team of experts. I mean, we used to have all sorts of people that were all local, didn't we? We had people all over the shop doing strange things.
Absolutely. And what I've come to realise about that, looking for that one person, is that invariably they do exist and they're running their own businesses.
That's the problem. If they're that good,
they're running their own businesses. They're already good. They've already figured out they are good, and they're running their own businesses.
Yeah,
and I think that I recently reread Michael Gerber's The E-Myth.
Oh, really?
Great book. I mean, the guy's a nutcase, but his book's brilliant. It's like the best personal development treatise hidden within a business book.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was really reminded of was this idea that you should chunk down your jobs, and he didn't put it quite as grossly as this, but then you can look for monkeys to do those little bits of work for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite as gross as that, but then you don't need to find the expert who's going to charge you $100.
Yeah.
You can find the very, very cheap person in India or Philippines who's going to charge you $2 to do that simple, chunk down job.
Yeah. And it is just the coordination thing, but you also need to be able to think it through and just think, okay, what tasks, what little tasks need to be done in this one task. And if you can't get someone to do the one task, go and find people. But then someone needs to organise it all, and that's a VA or personal assistant job, isn't it? It's not an entrepreneur's job, because we're rubbish at organising things beyond the first thinking out the system.
That's exactly right. So as you say, once my strategy is, I will do the work to make sure that I understand the work. And then I will write the systems documentation based on what I exactly want. And then I will outsource that and measure the efficacy of what's actually being done. So that's my strategy. And then I found a really good, and I don't think of it as a personal assistant. I actually looked for a project manager and looked for people with those skills, because that's ultimately what that position is. It's a project management position, not really a virtual assistant position.
Yeah. So you said a couple of things there that I just want to pick up on, because I don't want to put people off, because you're very because you and I have both learnt how to do internet marketing as each thing came along. We built on previous knowledge. Someone coming into it now, they'd be better not to try and learn how to do it first, because that will stop them in their tracks, won't it? It's better to find a VA or a project manager. I didn't get on with project management type people. I found they were just too detail orientated. They drove me crazy. So what I need is someone who's organised enough, but who could creative speak, and then be organised as well. And they went and found people who could do the jobs that I couldn't do, because if I had to learn everything, it's still, I mean, even now, it's the technical stuff just gone way beyond me. Website stuff, I can't. I used to be able to do websites all day long, but I can't do them now. So it would be better for that right hand person to go and find someone to do those things, because it would get done quicker than if I had to learn it. And the other thing is that I'm never going to sit and do a checklist, so I get my VA to watch a video. I'll make a video, and then the VA will make a checklist, and then that will be passed on to the outsourced person. So
that's great.
Well,
yeah. And you are absolutely right. I mean, just thinking it through, there are lots and lots of things that I do not do that I have outsourced. So the video editing, for instance, I wouldn't have a clue how to use Final Cut Pro. Phoebe that.
I just use Camtasia, and I'm a lot more. But I do edit the podcast still every week, and Judith does the show notes. And every week we say we should really be outsourcing this, but we just, the podcast isn't making enough sponsorship income yet. But it's getting there. So, as soon as we can, we will be handing it off. Yeah. But it's a labour of love for us, the podcast. I think sometimes you've got to think, what's my thing I love, and what am I really good at, and what do I enjoy doing? And start from there, and then just spread it out from there and get it outsourced from there.
Yeah, that's really good. I was only speaking to this the other day with some of the Aussie online entrepreneurs. I was talking about outsourcing, and they asked, and somebody very smartly said, "What don't you outsource?" And I had to think about that. And it's really the things that I really love to do. So it's the writing the emails, it's the making the movies, making the videos, that sort of thing. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so,
and they, they couldn't be done by anyone else. I think it's the things that you're uniquely good at. So nobody else could write your emails in the same way that you do. Nobody else could talk to camera in the same way that you do. Ditto for me and Judith. Nobody else could record that podcast, but someone could write the show notes. I'm not sure about the editing, but that's me being a control freak still. But, talking to camera or talking to audio and putting your personality across, and the writing, I think those are your unique skills, your unique what's it called, locus of genius or whatever it is that people call it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I also think that there is a lot of talk about people kind of not working at all, and I don't get that that's necessarily, for me at least, that doesn't work. I actually enjoy the things that I do.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't want to outsource them because I fundamentally enjoy doing them. It's like watering the garden on a Sunday morning. Like, I could easily get my gardener who comes every week to also water the garden for me. But because it's kind of time out, it's kind of Sunday morning and we're still in bed, I just enjoy doing it. And so I want to do that myself. And so I think that there's something to be said for doing the things that you enjoy doing and then outsourcing everything else.
Yeah. And coming back to the Be Everywhere Online thing, if you can, I mean, we did raw local Be Everywhere Online system, although it wasn't called that in those days, from 2 blog posts you wrote a week, because I don't know why, but we didn't do video at all. But if people can do video, it's got a double whammy effect. It's super efficient because, as you say, you can spin off the audio and the transcript from it, but it's also incredibly bonding for the people watching. I mean, my little V-zine that I do, which is really just me talking to camera for 5 minutes, topped and tailed with what I did this week and what's on the blog this week kind of thing, with some little shots of what goes on in Greece, 30 seconds, whatever. Phoebe puts it all together. But it really bonds people to you watching you on video, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've really noticed that, and I've copied your V-zine, your blog, 100%, with my own little kind of confessions of an Amazon FBA entrepreneur I do, and I talk about all the things that aren't working in my business or aren't working in my life, and it really does humanize you and bonds people to you, because things don't work all the time, so it's no good sitting there just lying about all the great stuff when there's things that don't work as well. Things work, but things also don't work. So as you say, that I have had the best response from existing subscribers. They have really, really enjoyed seeing how I mess things up and what isn't working. They really, really have enjoyed that.
Yeah. In the same way that I had to, because I was inspired by Casey Neistat and Gary Vaynerchuk and people like that. But I realised that I'm in Greece in a tiny village. It's going to be chickens. It's going to be the sunset. There's not going to be an awful lot going on. And in fact, I have to find different batches of chickens sometimes because I think I can't film that lot again. But that made it, and also it's the fact that I've never got any makeup on nowadays because I'm always down the beach. And I haven't blow dried my hair because I'm always just. It's got to be simple now because I want the beach life, and the fact that I'm not middle-aged and I'm not sylph-like and I'm not getting on and off of jets and I'm not, haven't got a fancy car. I've got a nice house, but I haven't got a fancy car, and so I just had to really suck it up at the beginning and just think I've got to be 100% authentic with this, and have a real down-to-earth attitude about the way I look on camera, the way I sound on camera, and people really respond to it, and it really makes people feel that they can do it too. When you show yourself warts and all, people do think, oh, if she can do it looking that bad, then perhaps I can do it too.
You've hit upon something that I went through as well, that concept of revealing almost like secret sides of yourself that you wouldn't ordinarily share publicly. I went through exactly the same thing.
I remember you were quite hesitant about the whole idea
absolutely, yeah. And it was more my own personal baggage than anything else. It's that sort of like, am I brave enough to put myself out there and just let people see me for who I actually really am? And there was a real kind of sense of, it's easy for me to be the successful e-commerce entrepreneur when I'm just writing emails and I show people how much money I'm making, and my car and my nice house and all that kind of stuff. But the reality of that is that that's just a brand image, but there's also a different side as well. There's the side of it where my kids won't listen to anything at all I say.
That's hilarious.
There's all those kind of lovely things that I was reticent about sharing, but I've actually found it quite liberating. Now I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because you're there, and everyone can see you and everything. So I'm fascinated by your bookshelf behind you. So have you been lugging those books around from country to country in boxes?
Yeah, I mean, I've lost a lot of books in my country travels. We worked out that we've changed countries 8 times in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, I've either given a lot of books away or lugged a lot of books or lost some books, but that's my current books, and I've got some more downstairs as well. I'm waiting for another bookshelf.
I'm very impressed because I've got one. Well, we reduced. Sarah sold everything out from under me in the house when we were in the weeks when we were going to come to Greece, and she got rid of everything. It was fantastic, and I feel so light for that. But I do have one suitcase full of books I can't. But it's like my legacy to the kids, you know. I know they'll never read them, but I can't bear to part with them. It's like the E-Myth and the Rich Dad and the Rags to Riches through real estate and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, that Russ Whitney one, absolutely.
So I don't know. I probably fill one bookshelf of that size, but not the two. So I'm very impressed by the fact you've clung on to so many books.
You know, at the minute I'm going for a crazy reading phase. I'm reading about 3 books a week at the minute.
Really?
Nuts, but all fiction books. I don't know why.
Oh wow!
I'm just reading loads of fiction books on my Amazon account. I mean, I've got a big pile of books here in my to-read list, just down there. Yeah. And just sitting for me to read them.
Yeah. So tell us what the outcome is. So when did you? Well, I came to Brisbane in I don't know, where was it? June, and you got your system into place over the sort of next month or so.
Next, probably 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
I remember you were working on it quite hard. And what results are you seeing from it?
Now it's starting to get some traction. So now, like this week, for instance, as a direct result of that, and I can attribute it really easily because I get emails from people saying to me, I found you on YouTube, or I found you on your podcast. Right. So I know that the attribution is there.
Yeah.
But I've had somebody approach me about launching their I think it's around about $20 or $22 million a year existing brick and mortar business in Australia.
Wow.
Launching that on Amazon for them, and they want to partner up with me to do that.
Oh,
and they found that on a YouTube video. They found me.
Wow, that's incredible.
Crazy. I mean, $22 million. I mean, and they want to kind of launch it onto Amazon and like, can you help? Can you, no, not even can you, will you do it for us, Neil? Not even, let's talk about it, let's negotiate. No.
They're pre-sold.
Will you do it for us?
Yeah, they feel connected.
Really want you.
They feel connected to you personally, absolutely. I launched mine I started doing the V-Zine in January. I got clarity about who I wanted to work with next and what I was going to bring to the table. And I started the V-Zine in January. And I noticed an increase in activity. Just the whole thing was some of my old clients said to me, where have you been? And I said, well, I've been here. I've been exactly the same place as I always am on the computer. But they hadn't seen me around on social media. They hadn't seen content. They hadn't seen it in the places that they were, perhaps. I was only putting stuff out on my personal profile. That's all I was doing up until Christmas. And as soon as I started creating the V-Zine and spreading content around, I noticed an immediate uptick in activity in terms of people opting in and people opening my emails and things like that. And then within 3 months, I was attracting clients. So I think, you've got to, it's not an instant results, but it is actually a lot quicker than you think it's going to be. So you've been doing it since July? What do you think? Mid-July up and running properly?
Yeah, August really, I guess. So it was June when you came over, so it's probably August by the time I got my shit done.
Okay, so within 2 months, you're seeing specific traceable results from your activities.
But it's not even that for me. And yes is the answer to that. But it's not even that for me. What it is for me, it's the compounding effect of it.
Yeah.
So Warren Buffett talks about compound interest being the 8th wonder of the world. And the compounding effect of being everywhere online is that you create the copy, you create the material, and it sits there, and it's always there, and next week you create some more, next week you create some more. And so instead of being a linear progression, it's actually logarithmic. It's a logarithmic progression, because as the content increases, so does your reach increase. And that happens in it's that kind of beautiful hockey stick pattern that all the venture capitalists look for.
Yeah.
So it's compound interest,
Yeah.
I think, on what you're doing. Because
and that's the thing to remember, that item number 1 is still working every week for you while you're on item number 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
2 fantastic. I mean, we've just Sarah's just spent the last week putting all of the 153 Own It podcasts onto YouTube. 150. What did I just say?
You like to exaggerate a little every time.
What did I say?
153.
153. What did I say then?
I just said
You said 150.
150. You said 153. It creeps up every time.
Oh, right, creeps up every time, apparently. Well, okay, so it's 150. 150, which is still an enormous amount of podcasts, have all just gone onto YouTube with really lovely covers that she's designed, based on the picture we used on the original podcast. And I can see that my YouTube view count is going like that already. It's incredible. And the other thing is, of course, that we've promoted the YouTube channel playlist to our social media, and some of our existing podcast listeners are coming back and resubscribing to YouTube, iTunes. Well, no, YouTube, and listening to it all again.
Yes.
So don't dismiss repurposing old material. And exactly, I did a series of podcast interviews on the Business Success Factor in old business I can't remember when, and we're repurposing that now into my own podcast on iTunes, because they were great interviews, and all it took was a tiny bit of editing at the beginning and the end to turn them into new content. It's evergreen content, isn't it?
It really, really is. I think what you put together is first rate. I mean, I really, really do. And I just know that the effect that it's having on my business, but this is the important thing, okay? I am your typical content creator in that I'm building a business around a personal brand, but I'm also using it to sell e-commerce products as well. So products that are not personality driven, products that are product driven. So there's a big difference between those two things, like me having a membership site for the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs. In many respects, I am the figurehead of that business. And so you'd think that that's where that content creation would end, because you've got a figurehead and that's you're building a brand around an individual. But no. It's not that at all. It really, really works for products too. It works to selling things on anything. I mean, you look at the way that Amazon's going now. They've just done a big deal with YouTube. They're setting up their own influencers. They're setting up their own podcast things. All of those things tell you that the number one player in the physical products realm has realized the value of content too. And they're putting everything in place to do that.
Yeah. As I said to your Aussie entrepreneurs, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if they can see an Amazon store owner is a real person with a real life and real family and real kids, they're going to trust them so much more to buy from than someone who hasn't got all that online branding going, personal branding going on. And the other thing, and the other, I've been doing this 12-week challenge because I thought I've got to prove to people that this works, because until obviously you got up and rolling, that I had some other clients, but they were sort of a bit slow on taking action, and so I accidentally bumped into someone in Greece. I was a great friend of mine. Her daughter-in-law came out. She turns out to be a prolific content creator, and she's got her own digital course. She's based in Women in Audio. She's very big in, she's run radio stations. She's trained DJs, presenters, and I'm doing a 12-week challenge with her where I'm literally putting into action all of the principles of the Be Everywhere Online thing. And she's great. She just talks to camera to order, but she's got a busy life. She's got 2 kids. She's got a husband who runs one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and she's got her her own presenting coach work. But so it's all being done for her. But she just does the talking to camera and creating the content. And within 3 weeks, she's had 3 speaking gig requests, one for a university. She's had one client who she did the initial interview with as a client consult, and she disappeared, never came back. Anyway, the woman started seeing her ads for her content videos. and remembered her and came back and paid straight away. And, it shows she's building a mailing list where she had none. She's got an audience where she had none. She's been invited to judge 3 panels in her industry.
That's great.
And she has people that she really respects reaching out to her on social media saying, your content rocks, you are everywhere. I keep seeing your amazing tips. So it's really working from the point of view of it's raising her authority within her industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And I'd imagine that would lead on to higher prices that you can charge.
Yeah, of course.
Speaking gigs, as you say, and just really becoming the expert and the de facto choice within your particular industry. It's like the guys who approached me for the Amazon to get their Amazon thing.
Yeah.
I didn't need to make any sale at all.
Yeah.
That sale had already been made by all of the content that was out there. That did all the selling for me. So when they came to me, they had already decided that they wanted me. They were then trying to sell me on taking them on as clients. It's a much different relationship. If you hate selling, this is brilliant. If you don't like the idea of selling stuff, this is brilliant.
Yeah, and Kate, she was really quite nervous before we put her content out because she was worried about what people would think of her. She was worried that her peers would criticise her, and that's quite a common fear that people have. But if you're putting out, good solid content that nobody can argue with, then it can't do you anything but good, really.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people hate on me for a couple of things.
Have you?
For sure. But it's outweighed massively by the number of good things I've had. So I think that's like life, It doesn't matter. You'll always have somebody that, no matter who you are, will hate on you.
Yeah.
And other people are just going to love you. So I've kind of
more people
reconciled.
As long as the balance is right. And the other thing, of course, reputation management, that's the other thing it's good for because, I know that if anyone wants to go and find anything bad about me, then they would have to look very, very hard in page, it would be down page 19, 20, 21, because I dominate, the Google for my name.
Yes.
And that's a great thing too. So, if you're into your own reputation management, this is a fantastic way to control that.
And if you're not, you really ought to be, because reputation management is absolutely important. And you can have negative things said about you online, but if there is vastly more positive things about you, people discount them. I've noticed that an easy example, for instance, is Amazon. Everybody gets to review their products, okay? And there's some products that have a few negative reviews. If they've only got a few negative reviews and nothing else, they'll never ever move online. But if they've got 100 positive reviews and 5 negative reviews, you will discount the negative reviews and focus instead on the positive. That's just human nature. And it's the same with people online. You want to have a preponderance of people, of information, of content all about you online like you do, Nicola. It's really smart to do.
Yeah. It actually just popped into my head that it would even be good for people who are in jobs, because if you're building a career, if you want to be a lawyer or you want to be, someone big in the corporate world, to have a personal branding strategy where you're creating great content of interest to people in your industry or field would be a really cool thing to do, wouldn't it? It would make job seeking so much easier because people would come to you.
People would be poaching you, wouldn't they? That's exactly what would happen. They'd be coming to you. Will you work for us? It would be exactly the same situation that we just discussed with no more selling.
Yeah. I've just had a fantastic idea for leveraging this. It's be everywhere online for the corporate world. And just have to spin it off into that as well. But no, we are entrepreneurs and we must restrain ourselves.
I feel a bout of domain buying coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Neil, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time, and it's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I'm so glad that something you sort of gave me the germ of the idea, and then I run with it, and then was able to give it back to you, and it's doing you some good. That's really, really a lovely circle of life, isn't it?
That's a beautiful circle of life, and you have far exceeded anything that we put together at Raw Local. You've taken that and taken it to an entirely new, extremely profitable level. So thank you so much for that.
No, then you're welcome. Thank you. See you soon, all right?
See ya. Thanks for having me on. Bye-bye.
I will.